And we are live with an extra special late night, after hours, after dark version of the MMA Vivisection with
That
me, your
sounds
host.
dirty already. What is going on here?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to go all like HBO special on us, but
TVMA. This program
that's right.
contains adult content, adult language.
You like watching people get fucked for free? Anyway, that's the kind of show we got for you here. We're going to be talking about Bellator 146 and World Series of Fighting, both events going down this Friday, head to head. Um, Two weird cards. It's just got to be said straight up. These are two weird, weird cards. So I'm glad we got one show for them both because it's the kind of thing that like there'll be a lot for the hardcore MMA fan to watch and like flip back and forth from, but for the casual MMA fan, there's a lot of shit that you just be like, what is this? Why who are these people and why am I watching this? So, you know, don't expect any like huge names or major thrills, but a lot of weirdness.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm joined by Eddie Mercado, Victor Rodriguez, my esteemed cohorts. Vic, how you doing tonight?
I don't know. I'm just as confused as you are as to what the hell we're doing and how we're gonna get through this card, both of these cards. But yeah, they're going to be happening apparently at the same time, as of course, because the MMA gods hate us. And yeah, so let's talk a little combat because it's fun shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Eddie, how you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. Staying up to talk about these ultra exciting cards.
Ultra
Before
exciting.
anything, find me on Twitter at the Eddie Mercado. Give us a like on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Read Bloody Elbow. All that jazz. Special shout out to Links Academy of Martial Arts, certified Gracie Training Center. Go check them out if you're in the 757 Tidewater area. Um, but yeah, this card, I had a buddy of mine who was like, "Hey, are there any good fights, coming up this weekend? World Series of Fighting Bellator." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, there's and no, there's," and I couldn't explain to him like anyone that he would possibly understand, like, and he's a casual fan, so it was like I just couldn't express anything about these cards that were appealing to him. So he's probably
Yeah.
not tuning in.
And I'm sorry, but to make matters worse, we're coming over this massive sort of basking that we had in 193, being the event that it was. There are some fans that are burnt out, probably want to take a little break because we've had a bit of, we've had some ups and downs in the last few weeks as far as events go. But after all the media blitz, some folks might want to actually take a breather here.
I
And
I gotta say it's hard to even it's hard to even muster up that much enthusiasm for this UFC card this weekend.
yeah,
Like that's 13 fights, most of which are going to be on Fox Sports 1 and a bunch of tough Latin America 2 guys. And I'm just kind of like, well, yeah, I guess.
I don't even know those cats, and I might be statistically possibly related to at least three of them. So I don't know
That's
what the
right.
hell is going on there.
You've probably had a couple of them in your backyard for a cookout at least once.
I probably had a slap boxing match with at least one. So
There you go.
mm.
So Vic Vic is potentially related to half the UFC card, and even he can't care that much. On that note, we're gonna dive right into this Bellator card. It's a really strange. It's the stranger of the two cards, and that's saying a lot considering World Series of Fighting is running a one-man lightweight tournament or an eight-man one-night lightweight tournament. For Bellator to be the weirder card, that's that's a weird thing. So we're gonna talk about that first. And frankly, we're just gonna pick some fights to talk about because really, I can't find that much differentiation between the prelims and the main card here in terms of quality. Honestly, there's not. I look at the prelims. I see a bunch of recognizable names who have some decent records and are competing. And then I look at the main card and I see some recognizable names who have decent records and are competing. Everybody's all right, but there's no standout fights except the main event's pretty fun. Just Saki Kato versus Melvin Manhoff, but we'll get to that eventually. So first off, Eddie, what's a prelim fight that you're interested in on this?
Honestly, none of them. But as far as name value goes, I mean, we have to talk about Josh Neer and exactly how far he's falling out of the tree. I mean, he's the first
You,
fight up.
you go. This is your platform. You will never get another chance to talk about how far Josh Neer has fallen after tonight.
Uh, yeah, man, and I'm a big Josh Neer fan. I felt like he was always one to want to just bring it, brawl with you, those kind of fights that fight fans like to see, and it's just sad. So maybe we'll get one last hurrah out of him. Probably not. He's fighting Andre Santos, who he is definitely competitive, but I mean, will I tune in for it? Probably not. But I mean, if you're a Josh Neer fan and you want to see probably his last hurrah, tune in.
Vic, you got any thoughts about the Neer fight, or do you got another fight you would rather talk about?
As far as the undercard goes, no, I'm not really that thrilled about Near. In fact, I'm rather curious about the circumstances that led to him being the opener, being a guy who's a UFC veteran with some, reputation for being gritty and tough and putting on some decent performances. I gotta wonder if that incident that he had back in that came to light back in February, where he was that video of him beating up that guy who showed up at the gym and challenged them. If you haven't seen that, I'll probably be posting that on Twitter later. I don't know if that might be something. They may still have him under contract, but they can't really let go. Look, this is one of the strangest things we've seen in a while in terms of career trajectories. We do have Julia Budd. She's taking on a jiu-jitsu black belt in what could be a rather promising fight. Stylistically, it doesn't seem like it may be very pretty, but probably worth checking out. And Bubba McDaniel
Yeah.
is still on the card if you're into that.
Stop at the Bud fight really quick, because I got a pitch, obviously, that I interviewed Bud for this, because this is one of the weirder things for me here, is that this is essentially very likely a title eliminator for Bud.
Yeah.
Like, this is the woman that who will very likely win this fight too. I mean, she's one of the better 145-pound women in the world, and if she wins this, she's going to be fighting for Bellator's featherweight title against Marlis Conan, very likely. Like, I talked to her, she said that's the plan. That's what I expect to happen. I should be fighting Conan next year. I expect Bellator to do that, and she's on the prelims over Ricky Rainey versus Chidi Njokuani, which, I mean, like, I get, or Brandon Gertz versus Derek Campos, and I get that those are fun action fights, but if you're going to be handing a belt to somebody next year, or potentially, like, that's a weird booking for me.
That is, and if you haven't read the interview on Bloody Elbow, please check it out. It's an interesting bit there where she talks about how somehow this had been planned. When she came on board, that was somewhat of the vision for what she was going to be doing, and she expands a little bit on it. So it's definitely a really quick read and really good read too. But there's not that much to be excited. It's a very perplexing set of cards that we're dealing with here. Other than that, if you're in a Bubba McDaniel, I mean, he's there too. Look, I'm not going to be home, but I'll have access to watch this, so I'll probably be watching the prelims. Am I going to be thrilled to do so? No, not really. But hey, you're going to be watching fights, and it's for free. Knock yourself out.
All right. So on that note, Eddie, any main card fights that you're interested in?
I mean, I'm interested in the Ricky Rainey Chidi Njokuani. I feel like it's a fight with two styles that are somewhat similar, two strikers who, I mean, we're not going to expect many takedowns in this fight. We're going to see two guys who are going to try to out Muay Thai the other guy, and that's always fun in my eyes. You got Njokuani, who I believe was the RFA champion, so he's been 5 rounds a couple times. So he's got the cardio, he's got the technique. He is awesome straight punches, kicks. He has pretty solid takedown defense. Not that he'll probably need it in this fight, but he also he can be a bit passive sometimes and somewhat play to the level of competition that he is fighting. So that might be a detriment in this fight. Ricky Rainey, he fought Michael Page once upon a time, not too long ago, and he got KO'd walk off knockout by an overhand right in a fight which I feel like he learned a lot from. I
I
mean,
hope he did.
he came out the gate a million miles an hour and just got sat down.
Yeah.
Like back back of the line. But he really learned a lot as we saw in his next fight. He showed a lot of patience. Um, he doesn't just rush in so much anymore. He's more likely to sit back and kind of sharpshoot and wait for his openings. And he does the double hammer fist palm smash on his opponents, which I love to see. So any guy doing that, I will tune in and watch.
Got a pick?
So, nah. But if I have to, I'm kind of leaning towards Rainey, but I feel like Inji might have it. This one's just too tough for me to pick. I would assume the odds are close.
Well, I'll tell you that. Vic, do you have any thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this as well because let's face it, this is pretty much like the Marlon Moraes and Shimon Moraes fight. Listen to me. The fight that we had a couple of months ago, where you have two guys who have a very well-defined stand-up game in an MMA bout. And so it adds the element of unpredictability. But what you're mostly going to see is a Muay Thai fight. I would actually favor Njokuani in this one because his technique does seem a little cleaner and a little more crisp. His strikes seem to have a little more pop to them. However, Rainey is definitely not a slouch by any means at all, and I just feel he takes a little more time to find his range and timing when he's dealing with his opponents, and that might end up costing him. That lack of urgency that he sometimes seems to display in some of his fights is probably going to catch up to him if Njokuani plays his cards right.
The odds do agree with Vic. Njokuani's a reasonable favorite, not massive, but reasonable, minus 253 to minus 265. Rainey, the underdog, plus 185 to plus 197. But it's a very classic Bellator or Scott Coker booking. Get two guys who are going to engage in the exact same area of the fight, and just kind of find out who your showcase action fighter is because of it. All right. Any other main card bouts before we hit the co-main? Bubba Jenkins versus Jordan Parsons. Any other fights on the card? Vic, Eddie?
Well, that bout doesn't really scream out to me, but it's probably worth watching to see Bubba Jenkins' progression. So that's something, I guess. Houston Alexander, if you like him, unfortunately, I don't really like watching him fight. He'll be there, and it should be noted that the Derek Campos versus Brandon Gertz fight is a rematch of a bout that they had before. Stylistically, it seems to favor Gertz, but it may be worth tuning in because these guys apparently, I don't know, I got a pretty good feeling about that. It might be fun.
I like Derek Campos' style. I love his boxing. I like the way he punches. He just kind of goes for it, and he'll work combos, changing levels, punch the head, punch the body. Super aggressive. We just saw him recently fight Michael Chandler. That didn't go his way. And I think Gertz will probably, coming off the Melvin Gillard win, I think his wrestling will probably get him the victory here. But, not exactly the most exciting fight probably, if Gertz has anything to say about it. But
the odds have Gertz favored 159 to 165. Campos, the underdog, plus 125 to plus 131, so reasonably close. And just real quick, the odds on the Viana-Alexander fight. Guillermo Viana is the reasonable underdog, minus 293 to minus 305. Alexander, reasonable favorite, minus 293 to minus 305. Houston Alexander, the underdog, plus 225 to plus 237. And now really quick, because I know Bubba Jenkins is your boy, Eddie.
Yeah, Bubba Jenkins, he's from Virginia Beach, went to First Colonial High School here. Division I wrestler, he's super athletic. Had a setback with Georgie Karakhanyan when he got choked unconscious in brutal fashion. Redeemed himself, fought Joe Wilk, and managed to escape a heel hook and overcome Wilk with some brutal ground and pound. Super athletic. The guy he's fighting is a Blackzilian, and Jordan Parsons, 11-1. He's got some pretty nice boxing. I mean, he'll throw his jab and keep his right hand glued to his face, which I love to see. However, when he throws his right hand, his left hand drops. Well, it's kind of weird, but you know, he's definitely not a slouch. 2-0 in Bellator, and definitely has heart. I've seen him get hurt and come back to win. So it'll be interesting, but I'm definitely going to give it up to my boy Bubba Jenkins. I think he's just the superior athlete, and the wrestling will be the determining factor in this fight. So,
Yeah, Bubba Jenkins is the favorite, -268 to -280. Parsons the underdog, +200 to +212. Now, main event time. I'm going to talk a little bit about this one first because I've interviewed both sides of this, and so you know, I want to talk. Just give me a second on this one, but this is kind of a weird fight, and it's like I don't know. I talked to Melvin Manhoff, and it's interesting. Like it's interesting to hear from him. He's talking about like he wants to end his career with Bellator, so we're probably not going to see Manhoff outside of Bellator after however many fights are left on his contract, but he really wants to end it with the Bellator title around his waist, which I don't see happening. But I mean, throwing Hisaki Kato at like Kato, he just seems like one of those guys that like I'm really surprised Manhoef is fighting him. And to talk to Manhoef, he's a little surprised that he's fighting him too. He was just kind of like, well, I got to beat the guy that beat the guy that beat me. But like this is a really dangerous fight against somebody who at the moment really I mean like he's the dude that beat Joe Schilling, but that's the only way anybody knows who Hisaki Kato is. He does not have a lot of name value. So I'm interested in this. Kato, I didn't realize this until I talked to him, but he's a longtime Kudo guy, which is it's what Semi Schilt did, what a lot of the it's like that extreme Russo Japanese karate competitions with the face masks and the full contact punching and all that. And we've seen some like we've seen some good Kudo practitioners transition well to MMA. So it'll be interesting to see if he can carry that for a while. But I'm favoring Kato in this. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Eddie, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'm definitely excited for this because I'm pretty sure it's going to be a stand-up fight. We saw Kato fight Schilling, and he took Schilling down in the first round for pretty much the whole round. But I don't. The way he took Schilling down, like you can't do that to Manhoef. His takedown defense is pretty damn good, and we saw that when he fought Alexander Shlemenko. So I can't see Kato taking it to the ground, and with Kato, I mean, he handled Joe Schilling. His FIQ was through the roof with the way he handled Joe Schilling. He was very smart, took him down the entire first round. Second round, played him like a fiddle, hit him with the Superman punch. One of the most epic knockouts of all time. Schilling bounced off the canvas like a basketball. But there's just so many unknowns about him. Like, we don't know, like, what's his guard like? What's his takedown defense like? What's his clinch game like? What's his chin like? Like, we have no clue to any of this. So it's hard to, peg him, so to speak. And as far as grappling, he does make tactical errors. Like, he puts his hands on the mat, which is super dangerous for your arms. But, I mean,
none of that's going to matter against Manhoef.
Yeah, that's irrelevant in this fight. Absolutely. Well, for them, it's irrelevant in this fight.
Yeah.
But then you got Melvin Manhoef. I mean, the dude's 39. Out of 44 MMA fights, he's gone the distance 3 times. Like, that's insane. That's insane. And he's been knocked out and hurt a whole lot. He's got a lot of miles on him. He's been hit a lot, hurt a lot. He's coming off back-to-back knockout, like brutal, like timber knockouts. And even though the last one was a no contest, I mean, he got knocked the fuck out. Let's face it.
Yeah. So
you got to question his chin. And, with Melvin's style of, overcommitting to his strikes, I feel like Kato's smart enough to where he's going to stay at range and wait for his moment and then capitalize. So I definitely have to favor Kato here. But there's just so many unknowns that I'm real curious to what the odds will be. But I think they might slightly favor Kato, but I'm not sure. But I'm picking Kato in this one.
Vic, what are your thoughts?
All right, first off, a little bit on Manhoff, who is currently 29-12 in mixed martial arts, along with 1 draw and 2 no contests. One of those being, I believe, the Shlemenko knockout, which somehow doesn't count in his record. Now, between kickboxing and MMA, he's got at least 10 knockouts that he's suffered. Okay, so when you have that kind of mileage and you're 39 and you're cutting weight, who's a guy who's got such a massive frame, he doesn't seem to have that much trouble with it. But as you're aging, you got to wonder how that's going to affect your body, how that's going to continue the breakdown that you're already going through as a combat sports athlete. I don't know. There's just too many negatives here about Manhoff's case that really make me uneasy even seeing this fight. You got a guy who's got all these fights on his record, and he's fighting a guy who's 5-1. I'm not sure how that happened. I'm not sure how any commission sanctions that, but that's what happens sometimes in Thackerville, Oklahoma. I believe that's that's a reservation thing, right? That's a First Nation commission, isn't it? Or am I wrong? It might be. I don't know. Well, look.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was. I know that, a lot of the smaller shows run there a lot. Obviously, it's like a big King of the Cage hub.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm not absolutely sure. I'll check while you're.
And that's not to say that they're not reputable, but some of these things do seem a little suspect in their judgment. Now, Cotto's only loss has been a TKO loss that he suffered back in March of this year. He bounced back big with that fight that he had against Joe Schilling, the Superman punch everybody saw, which, by the way, absolutely beautiful in how effortless it looked. It didn't even look like he hit him that hard. But when you watch the replay, you kind of see how he came in with beautiful stuff. Will he be able to repeat that? I'm pretty sure Melvin's going to be thinking this guy's going to try something pretty. There will be no threat of anything on the ground. This is purely a striker's showcase. I think everybody that is in the production is aware of this. I think the fans know this. The fighters themselves have to know. That being said, despite the lack of experience, I'm going to have to go with Cotto here. We underestimated him laughably the last time. We won't be making that mistake again, especially not against a guy who's really had, even though with those knockout losses and considering the fact that he's been rocked a bunch of times in fights that he's won, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable picking Manhoff in this. I certainly have to go with Cotto, and I think that Manhoff really needs to consider retirement very, very soon because all this damage is not doing him any favors.
Does not appear to be a reservation. I think it's just Oklahoma Athletic Commission booking. Right. The only thing I will say in their defense of being willing to book Cotto against Manhoff, despite the massive difference in experience, is that I know that sometimes commissions will make special exceptions for guys who have a lot of background in another combat sport, which Cotto does.
Well, in that case, that makes up for a lot of it. And just one final note, very briefly. Jeremy Botter, if you missed it today, wrote a very, very nice piece on Hisaki Kato's his gym, which is not very far from where the terrorist attacks took place last week. It's a pretty chilling read. It's pretty interesting. I'm going to share that with you guys on Twitter later on as well.
Yeah, that is interesting because I know too. He spends, for a lot of his camps, he spends his time out in Japan training with Hatsuhioki.
Yeah, he resides in Japan now, I believe.
Yeah, so most of his fight camps are out of Japan, but yeah, that sucks.
Uh-oh. I think we're losing Zane. Well, real quick, Vic, if Melvin gets knocked out again, do you think that's it for him?
Odds on this are interesting. Given that we're all picking Cotto, you'll be interested to note that Manhoff is the favorite. Not by much, but he is at -119 to -125, and Cotto is -109 to -115. So they are basically dead even in the odds, with Manhoff very, very barely the favorite.
That might also change after the weigh-in.
It might. There's also +150 odds on it going over 1.5 rounds if you feel like throwing some money away.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
So that's the Bellator card here. Like I say, it's a weird card. It's a card that it has some fights I'm interested in, and it has a lot of fights between guys where I could see one of them coming out with a bigger, as like somebody that Bellator wants to build. I remember seeing George Pakararu fighting Thomas Almeida, I believe, back in RFA. If that's where Almeida was. No, back in Legacy. That's where Almeida was. And he held his own with Almeida for, 3 minutes of round one before getting absolutely knocked the fuck out. But, like, they've got some interesting guys, some talented fighters on here who have run up some decent records that could make something of themselves in the future. But there's just, like, the whole card is that. The whole card is like a World Series of Fighting undercard,
It's filler. It just feels
is.
filler.
It's absolute filler.
I think I realize why this is such a disturbing or such a disappointing card to me, at least personally. There's very little in terms of divisional relevance in any of these bouts.
Which is amazing to think for Bellator. Like, how could you not have divisional relevance in a roster that only has like 70 fighters on it for a whole card?
Well, I think if Kato wins, it kind of puts him somewhere.
Oh, sure. Like,
but there is some. I mean, like before mentioned.
It's a big win for certain fighters, but the fight itself, like if Manhoef wins, is Manhoef a title contender right now? If the woman that Julia Budd is fighting wins, does that suddenly make her like a big famous featherweight? Not really.
Yeah, even the bouts that are divisionally relevant are strange in that regard. That they have this. And then some of these bouts are buried. I don't know. I don't know what this whole thing means.
So, all right, let's jump over to this World Series of Fighting 25 card and their lightweight tournament. And, yeah, like I say, it's kind of a weird week for MMA. We've got a one-night, 8-man lightweight tournament. When this was in Seattle, I was going to go to it. I was looking forward to that. But then they found out that it would be a felony to put it on in Seattle, and so now it's taking place in Arizona. So now, first of all, Vic, can you shine a light for me here? Because there's a bunch of 155ers on this card. Who is actually in the tournament? I don't even know.
Well, let's first clear up who's not. There is a lightweight bout between Jason High and Esteban Payan, which was supposed to be originally was supposed to be Jason High and his basically his return in a bout against Carlos Fodor. It's not an alternate bout. It's essentially a side bout. I don't know if maybe the winner of the tournament gets a shot at the champion, and then the winner of the Jason High bout against Esteban Payan, maybe that fighter gets a shot afterwards. I'm not sure what exactly they're building towards here. So to avoid a bit of confusion, yes, there is a bit of a higher profile lightweight fight, but that's not part of the tournament itself. From what I'm able to tell here, Luis Palomino versus Richard Petishnak is a tournament bout, as is Joao Seferino versus Brian Foster, Mike Ricci versus Brian Cobb, Islam Mamedov versus Jorge Patiño, which I'm very, very happy and interested in watching. And the LaRue Burley versus Joe Condon fight, I'm not sure if that's a tournament bout as well. Although Benny Madrid versus Ramil Mustafayev is, I believe, also.
I think those might be alternate bouts because
LaRue and Benny are alternates.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So those two are alternate bouts, and then the rest is the tournament. So let's start at the bottom. Alternate bouts. Eddie, which two fighters do you expect to come out of LaRue Burley, Joe Condon, and Benny Madrid, Ramil Mustafayev?
Well, with the Burley Condon fight, I'm definitely going Burley all day. I think he's just way more athletic. Too hyper athletic to lose that fight. He did just get brutally knocked out by Brian Foster, but Condon's coming off that decision loss to Nick Newell.
Yeah.
Which Newell was just spamming takedowns the whole time, and I wasn't impressed with Condon, but I feel like Burley has a lot more potential. The Benny Madrid fight and Ramil Mustafayev, if I said that right. I really don't know. I feel like Madrid is pretty well-rounded everywhere, and I feel like Ramil is just a little too unknown for me to properly assess. But he seems to have really good hips. And he's a Jackson Wink fighter, which is Those guys are well trained. So that one's kind of a toss-up. I wouldn't be surprised if either of those guys won. So if I have to pick, I'll pick Ramil.
Interesting point of note here. Ramil Mustafayev, the World Series of Fighting opener, lost to Andre Santos, the Bellator opener, in his debut. So small world of MMA.
Yeah.
It's come full circle.
There's a lot of this intermingling between these cards. LaRue Burley being from Bellator. A lot of these guys have opponents in common.
Eddie or Vic, which two you got the same two guys coming out of the prelims or coming out of the alternates? Who do you got?
Well, Joe Condon, despite his grappling chops and his submission savvy, I'm going to have to go with LaRue Burley having more avenues to win, mostly because of his striking. He just hits harder, and he's a much better conditioned athlete, it appears. I'm definitely going with Burley on this one. And in terms of Benny Madrid versus Mustafayev, Madrid's pretty good at utilizing his range standing. I don't know if that's going to work out in the end, with Mustafayev being a little more complete in his MMA game. So I'd actually have to favor Ramil probably, but not by much. Big shout out to Benny Madrid, by the way, for in his last bout he won. Giving a shout out to his wife and girlfriend being in the audience. I don't know what that was about, but do you pimp? That's what's real. Respect.
All right, that brings us to our first bout. Jorge Patino, Islam Mamedov. Break it down, Vic.
All right, well, Islam Mamedov is 12-1, as you can expect, a Russian grappling machine, I guess you could say. One of those guys who's really well-versed and more well-rounded, perhaps, than the average MMA fighter that comes into the sport. He's got a bit of seasoning on him, but Patino's a guy who's 38-15 currently. And, Patino's been around the block for quite some time. He's held titles in some smaller organizations. He's never really, I guess, sort of hit the big time. But despite his age, I mean, he seems like he's only just now starting to slow down. He's currently on a 3-1 streak as we speak. A couple of fights that he had in Brazil. I don't know. I really don't want to count out Patino. I think he certainly has a much better chance than some people might think to win this bout. Again, I'd probably have to favor Mamedov ever so slightly on this. I think he's going to probably get controlled.
All right. Eddie?
Well, Patino did hit the big times. He's been fighting since 1995, and he fought Pat Miletich and lost at UFC 18 back in the day.
And Misaki at Pride Bushido 3, and Andre Galvao at Strikeforce Houston.
Yeah, so he's been around the block, and he has a knockout win over Jacare.
He has sniffed the big time.
He's smelled it, like he was there, like he caught a whiff.
I totally forgot to start the Strikeforce bout. That's some reason I blanked on that.
That's all right.
Yeah, but
no blame.
Yeah, Patino, he's 42. As far as seasoning, he's probably a little over-seasoned. He's just. He's one of those guys that's just been around forever and just keeps going and going and going and going. He's gotten really kind of slow and sluggish with this movement over time, and he's kind of a one-off striker now, although those strikes, he's got heavy hands, and he's got pretty decent top control. And, experience means a lot, but with experience comes wear and tear, and, you really have to question that. Luis Palomino put the stamp on him, and he was able to take him down, but he wasn't able to do anything with it. And then second round, he got the business. You got Islam, who is an up-and-comer, fresh body.
Sound like you're picking Patino.
Oh, no way.
Okay. They're moving right along. Brian Cobb, Mike Ricci. What are your thoughts, Eddie?
Oh, you got odds for that?
No, we don't have any odds.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Mike Ricci, I'm actually a fan. He's a TriStar guy. He's got some pretty slick kickboxing. He's actually well-rounded. He knocked out Neil Magny on The Ultimate Fighter. He was a finalist, Ultimate Fighter 16.
You
Brian
can change
Cobb.
your screen in the background, right?
What's that?
You can change your screen, what it shows in the background.
Yes, I can.
You should probably put Mike Ricci number one fan back there, because I think you may be the first person I've ever heard say they are a Mike Ricci fan.
You don't like Mike Ricci? What?
Bro, it's not that we don't like him. It's just who gets amped for his fights. Like that,
Like
I'm
you
confused.
are the dude. You
You're the
you
guy.
are.
I like his kickboxing. I
We
think.
have found him. There he is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
All right, I'll co-sign
I'm.
on that.
Everybody needs somebody. I'm happy, but I'm just saying that.
I will co-sign on that for sure.
All right.
I think he's a complete fighter from a nice camp, and I think he's going to starch Brian Cobb. Brian
All
Cobb.
right.
I mean, his stand-up is subpar for a professional elite MMA fighter. Although he does have the wrestling, but I see Mike Ricci winning this all day.
All right, Vic. What are your thoughts?
Well, normally, if we were talking about the Mike Ricci that knocked out Neil Magny, that would be one thing. But I don't know if we still have that guy anymore. After the Ultimate Fighter, I haven't really seen that much that's either impressed me or given me the sort of hope that, like, okay, this guy can actually fulfill that potential that we perhaps have thought that he really had. Not to say that he's not a good fighter. I really think he is, but I don't know. He hasn't really shown anything other than just enough to win certain bouts. I don't think he really. I don't think he's got. He certainly seems like he's got more ways to win, but I really think that Brian Cobb is going to be able to control him and win this bout. So yeah.
I like it. I like the divided opinion. I like the see. I like getting
You
Eddie
know
to
what?
make that
I'm
face.
gonna set up a screen of my own back here. That's gonna probably get us kicked off of YouTube, but I'm gonna do something like and you know what? Actually, getting off that and getting back to something serious, I think we should explain very briefly for those who are not perhaps aware of this how this tournament is supposed to function.
All
Um,
right, you should go into it. We're halfway through it, so yeah.
Very briefly, you're going to have essentially for all bouts, you're going to have a fourth judge on hand, okay? And he's the one who's going to pick a winner if there's any sort of draw or anything like that. You're going to have two quarterfinal, or you're going to have a quarterfinal and a semifinal round, which will be two 5-minute rounds each. And the final is going to be a full 5-minute round bout. It's apparently what they're going to do is that the fourth judge is going to do like a pride style judging where he'll judge the entirety of the bout as opposed to going round by round in this whole thing. An interesting experiment, but really has the potential to be an even bigger clusterfuck than it has to. I don't know. I really don't know where this is going. And given how crazy a lot of the late replacements have been for World Series of Fighting, just the amount of chaos that reigns in that organization, I don't know if we might be able to expect some crazy controversy in regards to how they go about this.
All right. On that note, Brian Foster, Joao Zeffirino.
Yeah, Brian Foster, I like his kickboxing a little more. I like his use of range and his takedown defense. I think he might be able to wear out Zeffirino and win that bout.
All right, Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Foster, he's got some bombs. He's got dynamite in his hands. And, for a brawler, he's got a decent fight IQ that we saw against Jake Shields when he actually took Jake Shields down and had the, peace of mind to be like, whoa, I just took down Jake Shields. What am I doing? Let me stand up. So I'm going Foster all day. And Zeffirino was in the UFC, but, he didn't do too well going 0-2, and he showed some cardio issues. But being, 2 rounds, who knows if that'll even matter. But Foster all day.
It could matter if he makes it to the second round. That could be a big deal.
Yeah.
And then a fight that really just has me scratching my head. Luis Palomino, Richard Padishnock. Eddie, who you got here?
I'm got to go Palomino on this one, even though I question how much longer he's going to be around and the condition of his chin. He just went to war with Gaethje back-to-back, and that sucks. Like, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, honestly. But I still think he can maintain a kind of pace that Padishnock just can't handle. So I'm going to go Palomino here, probably by knockout.
Vic, you agree?
First off, may I ask why this is confusing to you, this bout? Is it because of the difference in standing, perhaps?
Because I think that Palomino is what I would term a quadruple A fighter. He's the kind of guy that is like, really great on the regionals and like maybe just not quite at the right notch for the UFC or for a bigger organization. Even then, I mean, I think, he would have been a good, reasonable action fighter for the UFC had they ever decided to take a chance on him. But he seems like he always lost just at the wrong time. But Padishnock, like, this is a guy who got knocked out in a minute by Justin Gaethje and hasn't fought since. And, you know, other than that, his career to note is wins over Gregor and Igor Gracie, which,
Yeah.
like, I don't. Of all the people, he's a pretty seasoned fighter. Zeffirino's seasoned, Cobb's seasoned, Patino's seasoned, Mamadov's seasoned, Foster's seasoned, Palomino is seasoned, and Padishnock is just some dude. Like, in a world filled with lightweights, there are 80 billion lightweights out there. There are more lightweights than there are people on this planet out there fighting in MMA. And Padishnock's just this guy. Like, I mean, and he might even be a decent fighter at some point, but nothing about him stands out to me as like a guy who would be in this tournament.
Maybe it's just because Palomino is coming off back-to-back brutal losses that it's like, hey, let's give him the I don't want to call him a softball, but I mean,
he's the least experienced guy in the field.
Yeah.
By a fair distance.
I'm wondering if they perhaps, and this isn't meant to be a slight against Petishnock, but maybe this was a replacement. Maybe they had someone else in mind, and they brought someone who was less experienced. Not because he's not good, but rather if you look at these guys, they've all got, as you mentioned, a considerable amount of experience. But it is a bit of an odd thing to have him in. Maybe they didn't have Colton Smith available after his last bout or something. I don't know.
It could also be that they're contractually obligated to give him fights, and he hasn't fought for almost 2 years now, and it was like,
Yeah, that's totally possible. Yeah, I got Palomino with so many more avenues to win. If you can go into 2 bouts in a row and hold your own with the champion, and we know that the champion is a very special guy, he's a very talented dude, and you're both going toe to toe and giving him what for, I certainly have to. There's no way that I can. It would be intellectually dishonest for me to not pick Palomino in this bout. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
All right, next up then, I gotta ask. If it's Foster Palomino, Vic, who wins?
Jesus. This is what makes it so difficult. We don't know in what condition these guys are going to be able to compete after that first bout or that second bout. So, I mean, now we're going to go in that strange hypothetical land, and I'm still going to go with Palomino, but seriously, who knows if he's even going to be able to make it. He might stub his toe or something, step on a Lego backstage, and that's it.
But between all things given, Foster Palomino, second round bout, you're going with Palomino.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to pick Foster on that based off of cardio, really. I'm not sure if Palomino can be, seeing his way through a tournament.
Yeah. All right, and if it's you picked Ricci, so Ricci Mamadov. Who you got?
Don't do that to me.
You got to do it.
Don't do that to me. Nah, I got to go Mamadov just because I feel like Islam has the best style for a tournament. So I can't pick against that guy. I don't see him taking damage. I got to go.
Vic, if it's Cobb Mamadov?
Yeah, I got to go with Mamadov. I think his grappling is just going to be way too much. And again, he's got a better controlling game, and he's got ways to get inside. As good as Cobb's striking probably won't be enough to deter him. I don't think he's going to be scared of that.
So if it's Mamadov Palomino, who are you going with?
Oh no, I'm going with Palomino on that. I definitely think he has what it takes there.
And Eddie, if it's Mamadov Foster.
Man, that's tough. That's tough for me. I'm not sure about Islam's stand-up. But we're talking about round 3.
We're talking about the tournament finale.
Final bout. I'm picking Islam. I think he'll be the fresher of all the fighters coming out of this. I got to pick Islam in the tournament.
So you're picking. So Vic's got Palomino winning it all potentially if it goes the way that it looks like it might, given the format.
No, it won't. No, it won't.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying the way they've got it laid out. If they say the winner of these 2 fights fight each other, the winner of these 2 fights fight each other. I don't actually know. Let me see if the WSOF 25 wiki. Let me see if this has a Wikipedia page, and if they do, yeah, okay, that is exactly how it's laid out. So then Eddie's got Mamadov, and you have Palomino winning it all. Those are your picks.
Well, unless someone gets injured and LaRue Burley comes from the unknowns.
There you go.
Will we have a Keith Hackney moment? Is what we're trying to figure out here.
That's right. That would be no, not even
Harold
Keith
Howard.
No. What is? Damn it! Who was the ninja cop?
Was that the guy with that weird acronym, the Cetra, whatever?
No, that's John Hess.
Okay.
But Ninja Cop. This is what, UFC 5?
Steve Jenham?
Yeah,
Steve Jenham. That was the guy, Ninja Cop. Yeah.
He was Ninja Cop. He was the guy who was doing like ninjutsu demonstrations for police, like as a police officer in malls. Like that was his shit before he got to the UFC.
And boy, howdy, did he ever go places.
Zane, who do you have winning the tournament?
And I'm sure he's still a cop. Like, that wasn't that long ago. He wasn't that old.
Zane, who do you got winning the tournament?
All right, I gotta say, I mean, the way they've got it set up, I think Mamadov's definitely going to the finale. And if I'm picking between Palomino and Foster, I'm gonna go Foster second round, and I'm picking Foster to win it all. I got Foster taking it.
I can see that. Like, I can't even argue with that.
Foster, because Foster, the thing with him is it wasn't even like he wasn't good enough for the UFC at any point. He got a brain injury, and they're like, nah, man, you got to go. But, you know, this is somebody who beat Matt Brown, beat Brock Larson. He lost to Rick Story and Chris Lytle, but that's nothing to, you know.
No, especially not back then when he did. He wasn't as experienced as he is now, so that's not as big a knock against him.
And, you know, his only loss after that is a submission loss to Daniel Roberts, who was a pretty decent, you know, not an amazing fighter, but a decent fighter. And then Jake Shields, which fuck all that means. I mean, seriously.
Man, you know, I really like Foster's chances here, but I'm just worried that he's going to take damage just the way he brawls.
He does.
The only thing that worries me is who's going to take less damage, and I think Islam's going to take less damage throughout.
He probably is. I just like I like Foster because he's just one of those like tough as shit fighters who, you know, as long as he can stand up and throw punches, he will be standing and throwing punches, and if he hits you with one of them, he will knock you out with it.
And he's going to be a very large lightweight coming into this bout as well. He's a guy who's used to fighting at welterweight, and he's got a pretty decent frame and size at that weight. So this may serve him well if the cut isn't too, if it doesn't hinder his performance.
Yeah. So that brings us up to our co-main event. Final fight we'll talk about. Jason High, Esteban Payan. Vic?
Very, very, very happy to see this bout take place. Mostly because, hey, how can you not like Jason High? Look, he got cut from the UFC. He made a very, let's say what it is. It was a really dumb mistake. I can see why it happened, but it doesn't say any less of him as a fighter. You know, he's still a very, very good athlete who's had some ups and downs, and I'm happy to see him fight again. So he's going to be taking on El Terrible. You know, Payan's 33. He's been around the block. He's fought for every major organization thus far in the U.S. And I don't know, man. I like Jason's highest chances. He took this year off. He rehabbed some injuries. He rededicated himself even further to his conditioning and his skill set. I don't think the ring rust is going to be as much of a factor this time around. I think he really has what it takes to win this bout, and I think he very well might put Payan away, most likely with ground strikes, probably sometime late in the second round.
I got to say, Payan is 33 in that, like, Dominican baseball 33.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He's really 47, but hey, we'll let you go. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, that dude does not look 33. Nobody who told me Esteban Payan is 33 would have me believe in them. All right, Eddie,
I mean, I gotta agree with pretty much everything Vic said there. I mean, Pion's tough as nails and has heart for days, but there's just no process to what he does. There's no game plan, and that's not going to bode well against Jason High, who is a, pretty damn good wrestler. Like Vic said, he took some time off, rehabbing injuries. He's going to be fresh. He's just, I think, a different caliber than Pion is, and I think he has more ways to win, more ways to control this fight. So I gotta
Yeah, I
go.
think the big thing for me is that Pion's not even known as like a fearsome puncher. Like he's not a great knockout artist.
Right, but he'll throw the kitchen sink at you.
Oh yeah, he will. Like he's a brawler, but he's not
No.
a powerful brawler. Whenever he's
No.
faced whenever he's gone up a level in competition, he's never been the harder puncher in the cage.
He's
No,
like a volume brawler.
Yeah.
exactly. He drowns you in volume to the point where you just. But that's not really going to work with High. I think High just
Yeah.
another one of those guys who doesn't get enough credit for being a very smart fighter in most instances. When his game is on, and he makes some very intelligent decisions. He's not going to just back straight up. He's not going to just wing at the guy. There's going to be this is going to be a pretty exciting bout, but I don't really see any way that Payan should really win this.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think it's time to close the show. Like I say, it's two weird cards on a weird Friday that'll have you flipping back and forth. They are staggered slightly, it looks like. From what I can see on Tapology, the World Series of Fighting main card says it starts at 11 Eastern. So,
Wow.
you know, yeah.
God, why can't they get another TV deal somewhere else? What the hell is this?
Because
Well, this one.
they're the same. Well, I mean, you're asking why World Series of Fighting can't make a smart business decision. So I don't know what to
Well,
tell you on that one.
yeah. I mean, between that and now this lawsuit thing, which we didn't get to touch on, we're gonna get to that eventually. That we can talk about at some other time. But Jesus.
Yeah.
Uh,
So their World Series of Fighting starts at 11 for the main card. Bellator starts at 9 for their main card, which of course, because I'm in the West Coast, is fucking tape delayed,
oh God.
so that it,
Buzzkill.
yeah.
Mm.
So it starts at 9 p.m. for me too. Like I don't know. Think about it this way: the World Series of Fighting card will actually start earlier for me, even though it took place 2 hours later.
Are they trying to accommodate local time because it's in Arizona or something? I don't understand why they do this.
I don't know.
Mm.
I have no clue. Anyways, they are staggered slightly. If you are just absolutely degenerate and cannot make yourself not watch MMA, you will be able to kind of catch a lot of this stuff, switching back and forth. And there'll be some weird fights. There should be some fun shit. I'm always interested in seeing a chaotic tragedy and things like a one night tournament and Manhoef Kato are the very definition of chaotic tragedies. So tune in. Thanks everyone for watching. Give us a like over on YouTube. Subscribe to MMANation.com over on YouTube. That's our channel. You'll get all our live interviews, all our analysis, all our good video content. We'll be coming at you with another Vivisection, Prospectus. We already have the Care Don't Care. We'll have 6th Round, Knuckle Up, all that good stuff. You can find me over on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. You can find Eddie over on Twitter at TheEddieMercado. You can find Vic over on Twitter at Vic M. Rodriguez. And find us all at Bloody Elbow in our various capacities. Thanks everyone again for tuning in. See you next week.